Hello, and welcome to the Argyle CIO Leadership Forum, Business Resiliency in the Age of AI. My name is Nick with Argyle, and it's great to have everyone joining us today. A couple of notes before I turn things over to our esteemed speaker. First, a quick reminder to stop by our sponsors' virtual booths at any time during today's event and for the following week. Our partners are committed to providing you with valuable content and a great overall experience. At any time during today's event, you can visit their virtual booths from the main agenda page, which include complimentary materials, information, and meet and greet opportunities. Throughout today's event, you will also have the opportunity to win one of several prizes. So be sure to check out the prizes and raffle rules tab of the interface to see how you can earn points. To ask questions throughout the session, simply type into the Q&A chat and we will address your questions at the end of the session. Also, be sure to subscribe to Argyle on YouTube for exclusive access to all our past events. Now, without further delay, I would like to introduce our speaker, Tolgai Kizilelma, PhD, Director of MS in Cybersecurity Program, Dominican University of California. We're super excited to have Tolgai with us for a keynote presentation titled Future Proofing Cloud Strategy, Maximizing ROI and Security in a Hybrid Cloud Environment. Welcome, Tolgai. Over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Nick. I really appreciate it. So this is really a great opportunity as usual, and I always appreciate the welcome. And today we're going to be talking about future-proofing cloud strategy, return on investment, security. Obviously, it's all important native cloud security technologies. But first, for those who don't know me, my name is Tolgai Kizilelma. I'm the director of our MS in Cybersecurity program at the Dominican University of California. I also do teach GRC courses there. With that, let's move forward. We only have 30 minutes or so. So obviously, we all know about the cloud computing benefits, right? It's all about the cost and demand resources, scalability, increased agility, all those things. But it's essentially all about, if you think about it at the big picture level, it's all about value delivery and how we optimize the associated risk when we deliver those values and benefits. And of course, the use of limited resources, how we optimize them. And of course, when we do this, we have to be compliant with laws, regulations. That's the business context. We have those guardrails, right? So it's creating those values for our audiences, our customers, how we make it easy for the workforce, right? That's the business landscape. And I'm not going to go through these, but it is important to remember the benefits of cloud computing and why we do those things and for the business purpose. The capabilities is really important, the empowering AI. And nowadays, that's a reality, right? AI is not new. It's this chat GPT, generative AI with the 2022 late end of the year. But AI has been out there for the past, 50, 60 years, starting 50s, 60s. But in current business landscape, with the technology moving forward, we see AI a reality for businesses. AI doesn't exist without the cloud, and that's that relationship we want to emphasize. It is very important. It's the real-time data management that is important on the cloud. We can deliver the real-time data streaming from various data sources that AI requires. Very AI dependent, obviously. AI, ML. I'm not going to go through the different technology, AI-related technologies. The agility and scalability is obviously important, and cloud offers unparalleled scalability and flexibility, so you can stay agile, right, and adapt to market changes. And as we know, things change. It's not static. Things are dynamic, and we see this. Use this acronym called PESTEL: political, economical, social, technological, environmental, legal, and all those things impact the business the way we're doing. And currently, what we're going through with the political aspect of the current landscape, business landscape, the technology, the AI component. So these are all things that allow us to make modifications to our approach, to our strategy, so that we still continue to deliver the best value for our audiences. And the AI-powered innovation and go-to-market, right? Technologies are optimized for the cloud, like AI, machine learning, advanced analytics. So that's another reason why the capabilities are empowering AI on the cloud. Security, compliance, definitely cloud solutions offer advanced security features and compliance standards when we may not, as individual organizations, have all those capabilities from a cost perspective, from a resource perspective, right? A scale perspective. Cloud service providers, cloud does provide those things easily at a reduced cost. And of course, the cost aspect, very important. So it is really important to keep these capabilities when we're thinking about AI and cloud and all the relationship together. There are some trends in terms of the cloud computing trends, the priorities, short term, long term, mid priority. It is really important for our organization knowing what we do, which industry, how we create value, the services and products, the way we are using cloud, hybrid, multi-cloud. That's the kind of strategic decision. Gen AI powered cloud services, because now we realize Gen AI is here. AI, Gen AI, I want to make sure we understand differences, obviously, where Gen AI creates content. It definitely did make a difference. It's a milestone, obviously. And then talking about cloud native security and all the enhancements around it. And that's another priority for the organizations going forward with all the breaches that we deal with. It is really important to have a good security posture. Cloud governance, data sovereignty, these are obviously very important priorities. Data is at the core of everything we do. It's a number one priority. Everything has to do with data. That's how we create value. Security is about data, how we protect it. Privacy is about that, what we do about data, right? And again, the different platform engineering, different aspects. People try to, organizations, to modernize their cloud environment is important. And of course, there are other priorities like zero trust architectures and serverless architecture, AI-driven observability. This is a timeline, right? Timeline is always there. What is our current focus on the short, in the next couple of years kind of thing? These are just some trends that to give you, our audience, some ideas. And there are a lot of studies out there, right? Research from various known institutions. This is from, I think, MIT, and every other institution kind of highlight the fact that, AI is here. Cloud, we've kind of gone through that in the past 10, 20 years, made the reality for all the right reasons that I provided the benefits. And going forward, there's this focus around AI, cloud, working together, empowerment, modernization. And that's all for the business to create that, what I mentioned initially, the value proposition, the risk optimization, use of resources, and how we do this in a very compliant manner for the laws, regulations. So the studies are out there, the numbers are out there, and they clearly show the trends. They clearly show businesses, industries taking this into very serious consideration in terms of how they are starting to utilize AI and what they need to do, their maturity aspects, their workforce, their skill set capability in terms of their cloud initiatives and investments. The big picture, I'm not going to go on this again, just touching this on from cybersecurity perspective. There are different domains, obviously, whether we do on-prem, hybrid, cloud, different elements. It's kind of good to remember we have all these different buckets of cybersecurity related stuff, because at the end of the day, we create value using IT, technology, digital information transfer, digital transformation, innovation, all those things. But if you don't keep an eye on the security side, right, that value we create kind of gets down, reduced. So that value preservation is important to through the cybersecurity measures we have to deal with. And if you want to take the AI use cases and kind of put them into separate buckets, there are different ways we can look at it in terms of how AI is used in cybersecurity and what that means going forward with the cloud integrations and your strategy around these different major buckets, whether it's the threat detection that you utilize and you're kind of heavily relying on cloud, or maybe you have IoT, right? And it might be other threat intelligence, identity management, right? Where we kind of bring all the sources, all of our identity-related platforms together and utilizing cloud platforms. So major buckets, again, looking at this from AI cybersecurity use cases. So thinking about the cloud native security, there are obviously certain principles that we really want to pay attention is important. And then one is the zero trust principle. Never trust, always verify. It's a fundamental cloud native security approach, right? Implementing zero trust involves strong identity and access management. There are other principles like microsegmentation, continuous monitoring. It only ensures only authorized users and devices can access resources. And that's something we have to do, utilize these cloud native security principles. There's shift left, right, in security, where we're kind of focusing on integrating security to the CI/CD pipelines, immutable infrastructure, deploying from version secured images, right? So those are all types of things. And of course, there's AI, machine learning. They're increasingly used to enhance the cloud's native security. AI-powered tools can also be utilized. It's kind of going more to the technologies, obviously. AI-powered tools, they can be utilized to detect anomalous behavior and identify potential threats. Very important. We can kind of noise signal, separate them. Security analysis response definitely improves the threat intelligence and vulnerability management. There are also cloud native application protection platforms, which are essential for providing comprehensive security across all cloud native applications. And they integrate various security capabilities, such as cloud security posture management, workload protection, cloud workload protection platforms, Kubernetes security, into a unified platform, right? So these platforms, technologies aim to give a holistic view of the cloud security risk, regardless of the underlying cloud service provider. And that's really the multi-hybrid cloud security provider approach, because some organizations do utilize that multi-cloud security providers. So it is important to have that understanding of what is it that we do, how do we do it, right? The basics, the principles, and of course, all the related technologies, and make sure we are utilizing them properly based on some constraints that every organization industry has, and according to laws, regulations, obviously. So the multi-cloud security strategy, as I mentioned, is important for various reasons. Resilience is one thing. You don't want to rely on one cloud service provider, maybe, and you might want to have a backup. Again, we've seen this several times in terms of the resiliency, disruptions, interruptions to operations, and for all the right reasons. Utilizing multi-cloud security is really important. So adopting that cloud agnostic security tools is important. So you want to make sure, regardless of the service provider, classic service provider, cloud agnostic security tools, choosing those security tools, supporting multiple CSPs to ensure consistency and simplifying management is very, very important. Of course, policy, right? That's one important element. So we want to make sure we, part of the strategy, implement centralized security policies. And that allows us to establish centralized policies, enforcing them across all cloud environments. Very important. So that doesn't matter which cloud provider we work with, the centralized implementation of security policies are critical. Prioritizing identity and access management, IAM-related efforts, implementing robust controls to ensure that only authorized users and services can access cloud resources, regardless of the cloud service provider platform that we utilize. Of course, on cloud, right, we talk about everything as a code nowadays. Security as a code is important. Integrating security into the software development lifecycle by treating security configurations as code. That's really another benefit, and cloud provides that flexibility. Continuous monitoring, continuous compliance, moving forward with this, especially with the AI, Gen AI impact, very important. So implementing those efforts, initiatives to ensure ongoing security, regulatory compliance should be a part of the strategy. So altogether, by adopting these strategies and technologies, organizations can effectively leverage cloud native security regardless of their chosen cloud service provider. So I want to go through this as quickly as possible. We have 15 minutes, but so common challenges, again, we keep talking about AI, but it applies equally to cloud investments efforts. So there we have different constraints in our organizations, right? whether it's the physical, ethics related culture, organizational structures and cost elements, personnel, workforce, skill set, resources, capabilities, the time element. There are all these constraints. And because of these constraints, right, we're trying to really come up with and make sure part of the AI adoption, we move forward by addressing these constraints as properly as possible, right? And for the business AI adoption, executive support is very important. So you have to get that management support at the top. The way you're using your cloud, your infrastructure, very important. You want to make sure they're all there. A good, clean environment. Culture, always a big issue, right? Every time, doesn't matter what the effort initiative, it's always a big issue, the cultural stuff. Data, as we mentioned, data governance. We need to make sure the governing elements are there. Governance is very important. Strategy creation around AI is very critical. You have to know for your organization, industry, what the use cases are. Essentially, you have to have a roadmap covering all these elements so that your business AI adoption, especially with the cloud integration, is important. So the cloud, talking about the cloud and AI, we want to make sure your cloud environment is ready, right? That preparedness. And there are a lot of things you want to do, you want to take into consideration before you jump on this, effort, roadmap, implement the program, cloud and data modernization. There are different things that you need to take into consideration in terms of how you want to address the different elements. Okay, so Nick, you can just jump in if there are any questions, please. You can interrupt. So we want to make sure we address these items as we move forward with the AI, Gen AI, which is a reality today, and the cloud, which we've been using in the past 10, 20 years, and kind of merge them together so that we really get the most value, benefits out of this combination together. And that requires us making sure our infrastructure is clean, our data is clean, data appropriate. We have a governance structure. We have different tools, platforms. We have that unified environment is important, right? If you want to really get the most out of cloud and data moving forward, Gen AI definitely is there, right? It's not going back. So we need to make sure we have a plan to integrate Gen AI to the roadmap. And of course, we cannot do this without people. We need to make sure we have the right people, the right skill set, all those things. Machine learning, ops implementation, that whole automation as we move forward with the cloud and transfer most things to the cloud for all the right reasons. Those are the type of things we also have to pay attention to. So global operations, compliance, data, sovereignty, different things that we have to pay attention. If you're a global company, have operations in different continents, different countries, the localization of data, make sure you have the right controls, storage, the multi-cloud architecture. I mentioned about the strategy. So you want to have that plan and strategy in place. How do you deal with the multiple cloud service providers, the infrastructure supporting the global organization with a focus on the local jurisdictions, right? Encryption, that's very important, security aspect. And there are tools available, the cloud service providers. They provide lots of different features and functionality built in, right? But they may not be by default turned on. So you have to spend the time and make sure you're utilizing those tools that are available to you properly configured. Compliance automation, very important, especially again, if you're in multiple countries, different regions, paying attention to the local jurisdictions, you have to really comply that element, right? I see that, yeah, we'll always have people, right? They don't want to adopt new technology such as AI. So how can we kind of break those barriers? It's all about awareness training, right? I mean, there will always be people, and there's this change. It's a change process. We go through this change. It's the awareness. We want to make sure those people having those resistance issues, whatever, we want to make sure they're aware as to these efforts. AI is here. But it's the desire, really. They might have different perceptions. So you need to work with those people, provide the right training. What is in it for me? Why do I need to care about the AI element so that we can go through that and then all those things. So everything here in terms of the compliance, data sovereignty, that's really important. Business functions, value, cost, risk. You might have departments, functions at different levels, different value proposition, different risk, right? you need to look at your business and understand what each function, each department brings, and the value and the risk that are associated with those functions. Of course, we have limitations around budget. There are additional costs due to business frictions. So it is good to have this overall big picture so that you know where you want to pay attention to. There are different initiatives, obviously, and you need to kind of think, okay, how am I going to prioritize limited resources, those constraints we mentioned. And then there's the risk for every initiative. There's the resource limitation for every initiative. But at the end of the day, for all these initiatives where there are risk constraints, resources, we're trying to come up with the right decision to maximize our value. I do teach operations research management. So all we're trying to do is really maximize our objective function, a bit scientific here, I guess, is we're trying to maximize the value proposition when we have those constraints. And businesses can utilize these, right? Either through the vendor platforms or can they do their own thing. But the idea is optimizing the model when there are all these initiatives, all these constraints. How do you
actually there's this operations research, operations management, where you take everything into consideration and come up with those initiatives that make most sense in terms of the value proposition. So
with that, I'm gonna end here, and I know we might have questions. If there's, I went through very quickly. Before we jump on to Q&A, I think there are a couple of other things I really would like to mention. Is let me actually stop sharing my screen. Hopefully you see my video. So one thing I really wanted to emphasize is about the that value proposition, the risk, the resources. We always have those, right? The businesses, they exist for a purpose, whatever that purpose. And we have our stakeholders, customers, users, and we always have to create that value proposition. And how we really create that value by balancing the risk and the use of limited resources. That's really what we're trying to do at the end of the day within the boundaries of the compliance. So I see a question: how are organizations balancing hybrid and multi-cloud strategies to maximize flexibility and performance? So as I mentioned, let me see. I think sharing my screen again. It is really important to focus on. Let me show my screen. I think these are here. It's important to realize we have all these departments. We have different variety of functions. We have different variety of stakeholders, different initiatives. But at the end of the day, we do have those risks. We do have the resource limitations. It is really critical, starting from the top, to make sure we have that strategy. What is our strategy? Are we trying to focus on customer, innovation, cost? So that strategy will tell us what we need to do. It's like a pyramid. And that strategy set by the governing body, implemented by the management, and kind of communicated to all the lower levels, the IT strategy, enterprise strategy, at the lowest level, security strategy. They all need to align in a pyramid, if you think about it, back to each other, to the top level. And it's really, at some point, becomes a resource issue, number one, becomes a strategic decision making as to maybe you don't want to spend your resources in multiple regions, and you want to, again, depends on what your strategy is, right? So strategy is very important in terms of how you come up with the hybrid, the multi-cloud, and that flexibility and performance. I think the lock-in, because things might change, as we've seen in various times. There might be breaches, disruptions. You might make changes to your strategy, saying, "Oh, we're going to switch from this cloud service provider to another cloud service provider." So you'd like to think about that, because it's all about data, how we create value. You might want to make sure that you have a good strategy around your data, right? Those multi-hybrid cloud service provider strategies. Your platform, very important. Your workforce, your skill set. Cloud is at the end of the cloud. So there are differences between on-prem versus cloud technologies, like the traditional on-prem versus cloud. So you want to make sure you have the right skill set, the right workforce who understand and unless you're 100% cloud, right? I mean, there's this hybrid. So there's definitely a challenge, finding the skill set who are from the past 10, 20 years still knows about the on-prem elements of IT technology, and then the cloud-related, technology and all the principles I mentioned. So it's a balancing act, obviously, but having a strategy which tells you, okay, you need to have this roadmap with the right elements in between, because you need to do the gap assessment. You need to know where you are today and where you want to go, right? And that tells you, that allows you to create that roadmap. So whether it's on-prem, hybrid, multi, it's all about the strategy. It's all about having those roadmaps and making sure you prioritize, because we have limited resources. But without a strategy for the business at the highest level, organization, enterprise level, you're not going to know where you're going. That's why when you have that strategic effort, it makes things a lot easier. Then everything you do at the lower levels, they have to be aligned, right? Then you're eliminating waste, you're improving performance, right? Of course, you have to do all this in the compliance framework, laws, regulations. Another question: what are the most effective strategies for optimizing cloud costs while maintaining scalability? So I really think in terms of the strategic approach, ongoing learning is important, because if you don't know, right, you can't really make these changes. You have to adapt. I mean, if you look at the past 5 eras, 50 years, every era has its own challenges and this and that. So ongoing learning, however you do that, is very important. Our reliance on third party is important, because we don't have all the resources to do these things in-house. We're not in the business of IT, most of us, right? We have our core functions. So make sure to understand what is your core function and where it makes sense, outsourcing, cloud, all those things. Understand the implications, the risk elements, the value proposition. So these are important. So scalability, obviously one of the benefits of cloud. So make sure people, right decision makers, workforce, understand why we do what we do, right? Because workforce is important. They have to be part of the process. They have to be involved. Another question: how can automation and AI enhance cloud security and threat detection? Obviously, automation is one of the things, right? There's so much of everything, the complexity. Think about it. We have data, network, devices, applications, identities, and all these 5 things that kind of cover the whole thing. There are many, right? We have data everywhere. We have people connecting from everywhere. We have network, on-prem, hybrid, right? That connected. We have applications, multiple. We have different identities, human, machine identities. So it's just a mesh of these 5 elements: data, application, network, identity, and devices. So this mesh of many to many creates all these complexities. And the only way you can really deal with this is through automation. You have to separate the noise and signal when you have to deal with all these overs. Obviously, with the technology, AI, it's just not you. There's this, attackers, defenders, which is you. So there's both sides of the equation. So you have to use the latest technology, automate, because you have limited resources. When you have only 2 or 3 people, at our SOC, right, looking at the OLR's monitors, and there are hundreds and thousands of vulnerabilities or attacks happening on a daily basis. You just need to focus on what matters, right? The top actionable items, and that's where the technology comes. You can automate, obviously, most everything 100%, but there are things you might want to be in the loop, right? That's why, especially with the AI component, we want to make sure for those important, where the outcomes are important, we want to be part of the loop, the human in the loop aspect. Right? So security, threat detection, anomalies, what's normal, what's not, false positives. This technology, AI with the predictions, machine learning, can make a big difference. And we don't really have a choice. When the others are utilizing this for value creation, for security purposes, we have to do that. It's our competitors using it. It's the third parties attacking us using it, right? Technology. AI. So that means we have to use it. We cannot deal with this using yesterday's technology. So I'm just looking if there's any other questions. But overall, I guess one thing I really would like you to take out of this is things are changing. Technology is the dynamic nature of business landscape, and we really need to keep ourselves up to date. And one thing that's really important is ongoing learning. But whether that means certifications and conferences, events, and books and this and that, doesn't matter. You want to make sure you understand and you learn about what's happening so that you can make the right decision. If you have to know what you don't know so that you can ask the right questions to the right people, get that guidance so that you're moving in the right direction based on that strategic roadmap that is set at the highest level, at the governing level, at the management level, so that overall we create that value proposition for our audience, for our stakeholders, while optimizing the associated risk and optimizing the use of limited resources. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Please connect on LinkedIn so that we have a better, more larger network. Thank you.
Great. And thank you again, Tall Guy, for such an incredible keynote. I want to thank everyone else for joining us today. This session, along with all of today's content, will be available on demand following the event. For those of you who earned points throughout today's event, an Argyle team member will be following up with the winners in the next couple of weeks. This officially concludes the Argyle CIO Leadership Forum, Business Resiliency in the Age of AI. Thank you again for joining us today and engaging in our content. We look forward to seeing you at our next Argyle Digital Information Technology event soon, which will be our AI Leadership Forum, Innovation, Transformation, Strategy on April 8th, 2025. Have a great rest of your day.